You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hot Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. Episode 66. That was a really deep breath that I just took. I don't know if you could tell, but I was holding it in for a while. And
Wait, are you recording already?
Yep,
no?
I am almost panting. That was entirely too long of a breath. But episode 66, we are getting into it. We got a bunch of emails.
We did.
Thank you.
Which was fun.
Thank you if you sent something.
Thanks for flinging us some stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you. We got a couple, and we kind of sifted through them and picked one that might be fun to talk about to start us down this journey of email, call, and response in a way. And
you want to give us just a little quote from it?
Yeah, this was a very interesting email. And it would be great to hear an episode about how to start a hop journey from the point where, as a safety professional, thinks they understand how, from an expert's perspective, the person is not fully understanding the concepts. And so you and I said it to each other as, how do we know that we know enough to get started?
Okay, so this is from the perspective of a safety professional who's like, yeah, I got this hop stuff. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
And then if you could like omnisciently look at it from a different perspective, you'd be like, no, you don't quite get it yet, perhaps. And then you and I, our interpretation of how to actually answer that question would be, if you're in the shoes of that safety professional, how would you know if you knew enough to start?
Yeah, and I actually think we can strip away safety
in general.
Yeah, and just, I mean, honestly, I think the question really is, how do I, as an individual, know that I'm well-versed enough in this subject to start making some serious change, I guess. And you and I, sometimes we get to listen to people talk about this, stuff, like not quote unquote experts, but just someone going through the change. And
Yeah.
we'll hear them and be like, whoa, that was really good. And then the next sentence out their mouth, we're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on.
You missed it a little bit over there. We made a wrong turn.
Do you mind if we tweak that a little bit? So yeah, we see this pretty often. And then you and I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about because it's fairly common, I think. At least it's fairly common for us to witness the behavior and think, ooh, that was really good. And ooh, that was actually kind of in some ways contradictory to what just was said. So I think that'd be a good place to chat.
Yeah, but to be clear, I don't think we know how to answer the question well.
Well, I don't think it's not I mean, probably if you had to summarize the answer is, well, yeah, it's challenging because there is no script and there is no, these 10 steps to being good at this.
Yeah, I don't think,
And also being good at this is even relative to say, right? Like
right. I mean, like by what standard, by what scale, right? By whose measure are we saying this makes sense or this doesn't make sense? I mean, I think the most logical way for us to try to help Matt is just to describe what it was like from our own shoes trying to learn this. Because I mean, I think it's really, really, really hard to self-assess, meaning you don't know what you don't know. And so unless you have something to compare your knowledge to, it would be hard to know if you knew enough. And I know I really struggled with this at the beginning of my attempt to understand the concepts, which is probably why I spent so much time trying to learn them. Is because I really didn't have a marker by which I could figure out if I knew enough. Do I really understand this? Do I have any idea how to apply these concepts? Have I completely misunderstood, some of the messages that I've heard? When Todd came in and had a discussion with the site that I was at for the first time, right? I got maybe 4 hours of discussion. I have no idea if I interpreted the information properly, and I certainly knew I didn't know enough to actually try to go apply the concepts. I knew I had to do something more than that. But I'm really, before I talk about what I tried to do, Matt, I'm really fascinated in how you know or don't know or decided or assess how much you know about the subject.
Oh, well, if people have listened to the first 65 episodes, they might have opinions about that, about how much I do or don't know about the subject. But I'm sure that I have a unique experience. I am sure, because I knew nothing about the subject besides a couple of quick conversations that you and I had, and I listened to a learning team that was happening in real time. And then decided, yeah, you know what? I'm going to join up with you and we'll do this stuff together. And so the way that I learned was sitting in and watching and listening to you and to Bob Edwards give training. And then I would get to the point where I sort of knew what you were going to say next. I had pages and pages of notes.
Oh yeah, you took notes for every single training. I remember now.
Yes.
Like hundreds of pages of notes.
Pages of notes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get to a place where I knew what the flow of the training was. I knew what needed to be said, what points needed to be made. And that's how I think that I learned. And then I wrote, when you were talking just now, I wrote down kind of 2 ways that I think this sort of seeps into the brain. And one is that you hear about this stuff enough, and then you have enough imaginary conversations or scenarios play out in your head, and you think about how you'd respond to them. So a lot of shower conversations. Like, when you have an argument and it doesn't go how you want it to, so you're in the shower and you're like, I should have said this, and blah, blah, blah. You have enough of those. And sometimes you do that with made-up scenarios. Sometimes you do that with thinking about prior incidents, how you would have handled them, prior performance review discussions for me, in my case. I mean, I would just play them out, and how would I change my answers now? That's how I assessed where I was. And whenever I got stuck, I would think to myself, okay, I'm I'm clearly still stuck in an old mindset here. I need to go back and sort of see what I'm missing. And I would review, something you would say or something Bob had said, or listen to Todd, Conklin. And so I try to see where my gaps were. And I would constantly be doing that and think, do I know enough? Do I know enough? And then I'd open my mouth to say something and I'd say, that was mostly right. And then I would talk to you about what I missed, or talk to someone I trusted about what I missed. And that's how I do it. Which I think in hindsight, I wish I had spent more time doing the other part of what I wrote down, which is the fundamental change.
Say more about that.
Yeah. No, that's it. If you don't pick up enough of that, then that's not, no. I wish I had worked through fundamentally why I responded, how I responded historically, and then thought more about fundamentally what I need to change about my belief system to change the way I responded. That took me, and I'm not exaggerating, years to do. And it wasn't an exposure issue, which I think is really important for this conversation.
It wasn't an exposure to the concepts themselves.
There's probably nobody in the world that listened to you and Bob more than I did.
No, probably not.
Right? I mean, that's all I did for months, and then I listened to you entirely too much, so much so that I started to record it, and now people get to listen to that conversation. But every day I'd wake up, we would meet at your house, we'd do a training, and I would listen to you speak about the subject. And I had to critically listen, because there's times where, I'd have to jump in and say something, or we would have a conversation, or I would say, hey, I don't think, Andy, you're hearing them properly. Let's ask them more questions. Like, we do all that. So I was paying attention, but
so you couldn't even phone it in.
Exactly. So in thinking about, this email question we got, there is a point where exposure is not the answer. Listening to more podcasts, reading more books is not going to be the change. It needs to be a self-assessment of, what am I acting on? What are the belief systems that are driving my behavior? And what needs to change? Because you can get a running list of every scenario that you might run into, and then you can make a hop note as to, okay, to do hop, I need to handle the scenario this way. But you're never going to get a complete list. You're never going to be able to guess every situation you're going to run into. So if
something's going to fall outside.
Exactly.
Even if you had as many years of exposure to people saying the same thing, like you having to hear me say the same concepts over and over again, there's no amount of doing that, if I'm hearing you right, there's no amount of doing that's going to give you a complete list of scenarios in which you would have to apply this thought process. So at some point in time, you have to wrestle with your own underlying belief system in order to apply the thought process if you wanted to do it fairly consistently in your life or in work.
Yeah, and I'll give a quick example.
Yeah.
Then this is hyperbole for hyperbole's sake, but if I run through a bunch of scenarios, and one of them is when I see someone on a cell phone, so I'm going to respond now the hop way. I made a gesture with my body that was like, but and then you can also say, when I see someone not wearing a seatbelt, I'm going to respond this way. But what happens when someone's on their cell phone and not wearing a seatbelt? If you haven't thought of that scenario,
is that too much, right? Is that too big?
Exactly. You might just go, well, I can't tolerate that. Like, that might be your direction, and you will probably respond in a way that maybe is more traditionally how you would respond. When you have the beliefs conversation, when you see that behavior, it's a different response. So that's where I think it really needs to change.
Yeah.
That's my long-winded answer, and probably the longest I've ever spoke continuously on a podcast. If you liked it, you're welcome. If you hated it, I'm sorry. But Andy, let's talk about your beliefs and your learning. And you live this in a work scenario where you were exposed to one way. We've heard the story about Todd coming in and rattling your brain a bunch. And then you had to go and say, am I ready to, quote unquote, do hop?
Yeah. And I think I had an easier introduction to the thought process than most people did because there wasn't pressure for me to use the concepts. Meaning, when I was exposed to them, they weren't popular. There was no one in my sphere of leadership that was requiring me to act in accordance with them. There was no push for the thought process to be programmatized. I wasn't given, you have 27 days to figure out how to hopify. I mean, none of that existed.
Well, not yet.
No, not until later.
That did happen, just not immediately.
Just not immediately. So, and the only reason it happened was because there was enough success that then suddenly everyone wanted it sort of copied and put other places. But at the beginning, you could think about it as like it was really hard because I didn't have support. But then there's this other lovely side to the same coin of I didn't have any pressure. And so I was able to try and self-assess. I had nothing really to compare anything to, which was really hard. So what I ended up doing was trying to go to primary sources in some way of trying to understand what HOP was about. And what I mean by primary is, I've probably mentioned on the podcast several times, but from at least my seat, HOP is a fascinating combination between organizational psychology, systems thinking, complexity science, and restorative justice.
Do you want to guess what?
What?
That was at the top of almost all my notes because you say that a lot.
Because I've said that so many times. And so I felt like in order for me to understand the intersection of those things in the work world, I had to understand them individually. So I read dissertations and I read lectures about complexity science, which had nothing to do with a work scenario, meaning nobody translated it in these lectures to this is how it fits in an organizational, setting and how you would use this to change your behavior. It was just primary information about the nitty-gritty details of complexity science. I read work in organizational psychology, specifically Edgar Schein. I leaned a lot on his understanding of kind of how organizations function and the communication requirements of leadership. I then got exposed to a really fascinating book that I think Bob Edwards' family found by Dr. Green, and it's called Raising Human Beings. And that took the concept of communication into being able to picture how you would speak with children who maybe aren't meeting an expectation and how to view that. Is it the child's problem? Like, did the kid have a fundamental deficiency in their ability to do something? Is it an adult's issue that you didn't teach the child? Is it a systems issue? It sort of goes through what's actually happening when you see behavior that you didn't expect or that you're not comfortable with. Once again, having nothing to do with the work world, but just, hey, this is a view of individual psychology in this case, and the way that you would handle it in a one-on-one circumstance. So I got some organizational psychology from Edgar Schein, and individual psychology in the space of how you would manage behavior within a family structure. And then I started to just look at primary documentation in organizational psychology. What I mean by that is I went to MOOCs, or massive open source online courses. Did I get that right, Matt? Do you have any idea what a MOOC is?
A MOOC. So my dad used that term actually, and it was not a kind term for people. So I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you don't know. No, MOOC. Massive online open courses, which are university courses where they just give you the syllabus. So I went to organizational psychology courses, and the textbooks about organizational psychology, I started to read through textbooks to make sure that I had just like a foundational understanding of organizational psychology in general.
Just to quick cut you off.
What'd you say?
It is.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. It's mooc.org. Massive
Nice.
Open online courses.
Good for you. Yeah. Okay. Good for me for remembering anything specific that's outside of this HOP space.
I mean, by definition, this is inside the hop space because you're talking
That's
about it
fair.
on a hop podcast.
That's fair. And then I spent some time learning about restorative justice. So I read papers of people who were experimenting with the concept of restorative justice as actually means to handle criminal activity in various different countries. And I spent a lot of time trying to understand what that actually looks like and how you practice restorative justice. And there isn't, or I mean, maybe it's changed, but certainly at the time that I was looking, there wasn't a lot of information on that thought process translated to how you handle anything in the workplace. So once again, I'm reading this and trying to figure out, critically think, can any of this be used in a workplace setting? And then complexity science, right? The idea of, systems thinking, right? The other piece of this puzzle, right? Then you start to look at all of the things written in the HRO space. And so I spent a lot of time trying to understand HRO and HPI. And I read all the things from the DOE on human performance, and spent time trying to understand systems thinking in general, and how it's taught. And those things are actually applied to the workplace in those documents. So it's quite easy to translate that kind of directly. I mention all of that because I did have to spend a whole lot of time understanding the fundamental concepts. And then, to your point, Matt, trying to figure out whether or not my belief system matched with them. How I acted at home. Did I understand the individual psychology or the, small organization of my family and how I was responding to things, how it was affecting people around me? Did I understand that or not? What was my belief system around it? Then translating that into the work world. And I spent a whole lot of time thinking, which is why I'm not sure this answer is incredibly helpful to folks, because in addition to all of that thinking, the other piece that sounds pretty similar to your world is then I would test my thinking all the time. And the way that I would test it is I held up, Dr. Todd Conklin and Bob Edwards. In my mind, those are the experts in this space. When I heard them speak or I listened to a podcast, my goal for myself was to be able to answer the question that they were asked before they answered it. So if I was sitting in class and I had an opportunity to hear Todd Conklin speak, which happened multiple times after I saw him the first time, somebody would ask him a question and I would very quickly be like, if I was Todd, what answer would I say? It was a little easier on a podcast because I could pause it and give myself a little bit more time to think. Same thing was true when I was training with Bob Edwards, right? We'd be standing in class together. Somebody would ask a question and I would start to panic. And I think, I'm so glad that Bob's here because he's going to be able to answer this. I don't know what the answer is. And I would say, but what would I say? And then I'd listen to his answer and see if my thought process was similar. So I tested my understanding a lot, but I had to pick who I was using as experts, right, in those circumstances to have anything to compare it against, because there wasn't a good comparison, right? There wasn't this is the truth, right? There isn't a this is the truth in the space. There's a lot of people interpreting a lot of really good information to try to make things better in the work world.
I think I wrote down while you were speaking that I think it kind of goes back to the familiarity with learning that we have. We know how to learn about a new program, a new tool, or even a new system. And so we take Hop and we try to fit it into one of those slots and learn it that way. And the problem is you call it an operating philosophy, Hop. And that doesn't fit into program, tools, systems. But our brains try to make it into that, and it becomes a challenge. And so I really do think that we default to, how would I apply this to this scenario? This is how I'd apply it. Check, move on to the next scenario, and then hope we hit one of those when we're asked about it. And it has to be this level of, at a fundamental level, what are my beliefs and how are they being challenged by this thought process? Not, when I see X, I do Y. Let's get enough of those scenarios out there. Do that, but understand why the behavior is different and what about you needs to reflect on that change.
Yeah. And I think that if I was listening to this, the next question that I would have is, how the heck do you challenge your own belief system? How would you even know where to look? And best answer I have for that about anything, about any time you're trying to challenge a belief system, is when you have really strong emotions about something, right? So if I'm trying to challenge my belief system and, for example, if I'm in the workspace and I'm walking around and I see for the 1,000th time someone not wearing their safety glasses in a place they're supposed to wear their safety glasses, and they're sitting on top of their head, and they see me and they flick their safety glasses down onto their face. I remember vividly just this visceral anger of just like, how many times do I have to have this conversation? Why can't you just wear your safety glasses? I don't understand. I'm so tired of this. I remember that feeling. Those were the moments where I would have to sit down and say, why do I feel that way? Like, what do I believe to be true that it is causing me so much anger? I'll give you examples. If I believe this person is doing it on purpose to piss me off because they don't have enough discipline to do what they're supposed to do, that they know so much better than what they're doing and they just choose not to because they don't care, right? If that's the narrative that I'm running, then I'm going to be angry no matter what. It feels very personal. And that's the space where I'd have to say, is that true? Like, are all those things true, or is it just something I've made up? Is it an assumption that I've made? And how would I know? How would I know if it's true or not? And that's where this idea of operational learning started to make sense in my head. And I was like, I wouldn't know unless I went to go ask, unless I would try to understand from their perspective, why for the freaking 1,000th time you wouldn't wear it. And that's when I'd go ask questions of like, hey, I've noticed people don't wear safety glasses. Can you teach me what I'm missing here? I know that it's the rule, but people don't seem to wear it. What's going on? And people just taught me. It was the craziest thing. They just taught me why. And then I would feel that anger go away. And I would say, okay, so I learned something different. Now, what does that change about what I believe we should do next? And that's where I'd have to tackle the belief system around how much control I had over the rules. Like my first thought after learning, hey, guess what? It doesn't make sense to wear safety glasses because the hazard actually isn't high. There's really low risk here, and that's why people don't wear them. When I hear that, if my first reaction is defensiveness or fear, why? Well, probably because I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place of the rule is this, people are saying it doesn't make sense, and I realize I don't think I have control over it. So now suddenly it's personal again to me. I don't think I have control. Where do I not have control? Is that an assumption I've made? Have I ever tried? Has anyone ever tried to change this rule? Does it make sense? What would we need to do to change it? Who would I need to talk to? Once again, am I making all of this up and that's why I feel the way I feel? Or should I go get real information? And that's when I would go talk to people and be like, hey, is there any space for us to change this rule because it's not making sense to the end user? And if I did, how would I need to legitimize it? Like, what would we need to do to assess it in a way that could legitimize a change to the rule where everyone would feel like it's the right thing to do? Who do I need to talk to? And I would fill that space of frustration, anger, or fear with real information. And then once again, if I saw any time that type of emotion came up, I would try to figure out where was it coming from and was it real or was it something I had just narrated myself that wasn't real information?
Which, going back to the on your cell phone not wearing a seatbelt example, if you heard me say that and I said, they're on a cell phone, you go, that probably makes sense. And they're not wearing their seatbelt. And you're like, that's worse, but I could see a reason why. And then if I said, and they're on their cell phone not wearing a seatbelt, like, whoa, wait a minute, that's crazy. Well, that's what we're talking about. Now, we're not going to get into this conversation today, but there could be a very logical reason why they're doing that. And there could be one that
is just a reflection of an individual that perhaps doesn't want to work and can't work for the company. Right? Like both these things can be true. It's just,
we don't know. We don't know.
Do we know? You don't know.
That's the thing. We just don't know. So I think that's a good way to figure out, do I have to have that beliefs conversation and what do I need to do within? You are looking over your shoulder, which is at a bookcase that is just for the listener, very poorly organized. And
incredibly, terribly organized.
Yeah. Like you imagine that if someone puts a bookshelf behind them when they're on video, that it's going to be like, wow, look how well organized it is. It looks really cool. It's a nice background piece.
No.
This, not that example at all.
Yeah, no, it's not. And so what I was looking for was some suggestions of things that if anyone does want to go down the crazy path of trying to sort of understand some of the information they could from this sort of primary source place, give a list of things that people could read. But to do that well, I'm going to have to actually curate that list. So where could we put it, Matt, that people could get to it after they hear this, if they want to?
And we could put it in the description of the podcast if you have it ready, or we can put it on the website. A bunch of options, or we can start the next episode with it. So we have options.
Let's put it in the description of the podcast. So hopefully it'll be there if you're listening to this now.
If it's not, don't blame me. There's one person you should blame, and it is not me that is saying this sentence right now.
All right. I don't know if we helped, Matt. Did we help?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel that way most episodes, but I just think it was a great question. I think the other part of the answer that I would give is that just because you're going through this, if you are going to challenge your beliefs, it doesn't mean that anyone else around you is also going to do it.
Yep.
So you kind of can expect that maybe you'll change your thought process. Doesn't mean that other people around you will change with you.
Yeah.
So just prepare for that. But I don't know that we helped. I don't think we made it any worse, which is maybe a good balance here. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Well, and one last thing for people, if they need a space to ask questions of being like, am I thinking about this right? Does this fall into this hop space? Like, they need that reflection point, that they're having a really hard time finding the reflection point. One of the places you can do this is we just have a thing that happens Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time, the first Tuesday of the month. And
what's it
a
called?
lot of people come.
It probably has a pretty unique name.
It's called Tuesdays at 2.
Oh.
And people come to do just what we just talked about, of like, hey, I have this situation. I really don't know how to handle it. I want to try to handle it in this hop space. I'm just not sure if I'm thinking about it right. And there's a whole lot of people that are on that call that are trying to do the same thing. And we just offer advice to each other. So if people want to join that, just send us an email and we'll be happy to add you to the monthly list. So you have a space. You have at least one place you can go to test yourself, to figure out, hey, am I thinking about this in a way that seems to align with this thought process?
And where can they find that email?
At the end of the podcast, when we tell them to email us.
Yeah, but who really listens to the end of the podcast? It's it's hoppodcast.com is the name of our website, which you can find all of our contact information there. And we do read the emails.
Yes.
We do.
So thank you.
Thank you for sending them. Okay, great. That's it for this one. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, that's it.
Yep, another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's hoppodcast.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a stupid name. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and 1 consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference. From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.